What's up, my wizards? It's Dev. SAP Mtg down there. We like magic, and yeah, I'm wearing the same shirt from yesterday. Shut up. But anyway, today we're here to check out some hot, fresh, right off the line Dominaria spoilers. But first, none of the cards that we saw as part of the big Dominaria leak a couple of weeks ago had any art. That was kind of boring. Well, a bunch of those cards got some art this week, so I want to go through those real quick, because a lot of this artwork's really cool, and I want to talk about the cards again. So there's that. So we'll start off with Lana Worlds and Steel Leaf Champion. So Lana Worlds confirmed, finally, to be in the set. I mean, it was confirmed forever ago, but I've been getting the question over and over, like, wait, is Lana Worlds really confirmed? Yes, there it is. You see it. It's that promo art that we've had forever. Turns out it was Lana Worlds. And it's going to have a huge impact on the format. And one of those impacts is definitely going to be the fact that we can play Steel Leaf Champion on turn 2. In case you haven't seen this card yet, first of all, this is the Store Championship promo. So the actual Steel Leaf Champion that you'll open in a pack will look different than this. But this does look really, really sweet. And if you've never actually seen it before, yes, you're looking at a 3-mana 5/4 raw stats with an upside that makes it potentially unblockable, depending on what the opponent has out. So, yeah, card exists. Card absolutely exists, and it is as crazy as it looks, and these two are going to be a pretty formidable team. Like, anytime your opponent goes turn 1 Forest Lana Worlds, you kind of have to fear SLC on the next turn. We also saw Knight of Grace and Keldon Overseer's actual art. Knight of Grace looks beautiful, and I can't wait to see this card in foil. It's going to be super sexy when it's shiny, but Knight of Grace is a card that I like an awful lot. Good stats on this thing. You know, you get possibly a 3/2 first strike with hexproof from black, which is really good in a format full of, fatal pushes all the way up to Vraska's Contempt. And we'll see today, actually, a bunch of really good 2-mana black removal that this will be relevant against. So I really like Knight of Grace, and I think it has a chance too. And believe it or not, I know Keldon Overseer costs $1 million to kick, but I think this might actually have a chance after rotation. Rotation happens in the fall. We'll lose both Kaladesh block and Amonkhet block. Well, that means that On-Crop Crasher will rotate, and this might actually be a decent option in a mono-red aggro deck if we don't have On-Crop Crasher as an option. It's still a 3-mana, 3-power haste dude, and it's got some relevance in the late game, and I actually like small creatures that have more relevant late in the game. Earthshaker Kenra is a decent example. Direfleet Daredevil's another example. There's a few Champion of Wits. There's a million, actually. But, creatures that are pretty decent when you play them on curve and also impactful late in the game, I kind of like. So, if we get the 6 mana to eternalize an Earthshaker Kenra, we could probably get the 7 mana to actually use the hijack ability on an Overseer. So I think this card could be niche playable. We also saw the art for some legends, which is really cool. Here's Shawna Cisse's Legacy and Firesong and Sunspeaker. Note the new frame, which I'm actually not totally sure that I'm super thrilled about, but new frames are usually cool, so hey, whatever. Shawna, looking really good, by the way. I like that art. And Firesong and Sunspeaker, even better. This is the buy a box promo, so it's very likely that, this isn't the actual art for the card that you'll open in a pack, but they do look really, really cool, Lethal Weapon style, back to back. That looks great. So, and I actually think that both of these may have some impact. I really hope that Firesong and Sunspeaker means that they're aiming towards reprinting Lightning Helix, either in this or the core set. That would really get me hyped. Shawna will have real serious standard applications almost from day one. This is great alongside Mox Amber on turn 2. And in fact, along with Ovia Pashiri, this really helps enable the green-white and possibly even 3-color, but always green-white Mox Amber deck. And she can get really, really big in a hurry. If you go Shawna on turn 2 into Mox Amber, tap the Mox for a 1-drop, then suddenly your Shawna's big, especially if you got a 1-drop on turn 1. Your Shawna's a 3/3. Then next turn, you have 4 mana available because you got a Mox Amber out. You can just Shram's Expertise, and suddenly you have a huge Shawna, and you get a free spell too. I really like the way that Shawna interacts with Shram's Expertise, period, actually, because, you can always go Shram's Expertise into Shawna as your free spell, and you've got a huge Shawna, at least a 4/4 Shawna off of that. So Shawna looks incredible to me. She's going to be great in what is already a decent green-white aggro deck that's in this format. There's a green-white tokens deck that's in this format that already plays Expertise and, Servo Exhibition, Anointed Procession, and she's just going to be the biggest creature in that deck. She's going to get enormous by turn 4. So Shawna's the real deal. She's going to be an important card in Standard, almost no doubt. We also saw the art for Merfolk Trickster today. This is awesome looking to me, man, and Merfolk Trickster is good. Period. Although I do sort of have a slight like flavor beef. You know, the flavor text essentially says that the flavor text ticks me off in two ways. First of all, the name of this group of merfolk, this colony of merfolk, is apparently the illiterate. I know maybe it's the illiterate because obviously that word is supposed to be elite, but you could read that as illiterate, and you don't want to call a whole colony of things illiterate. But anyway, that's a little that kind of irks me. But also the flavor text denotes that this whole colony of illiterate merfolk, you know, swore off killing. But yet it looks like she's definitely dragging that guy down to drown. But maybe it's a trick, dude. You know, I get it and all, but I don't know. It's just the art is slightly at odds with the flavor text, and that bothers me slightly. But the art is good one way or the other. That dude definitely won't be able to do anything for a turn, and it's likely he loses all of his abilities. And the art is cool on this because, like, the creatures this is most effective against, like Hazaret, Scarab God, and Rekindling Phoenix, you know, in case you didn't know this, it makes Scarab God lose all abilities, obviously, including the one that lets it come back after it dies. So if Scarab God dies with no abilities, it won't pop back. That's pretty nice. Same thing with Rekindling Phoenix. If you're able to play this, target Rekindling Phoenix, and then kill the Phoenix the same turn, it won't create that little dude that lets it come back. That's pretty sweet, you know? But the image I get with this artwork is like Merfolk Trickster just grabbing Scarab God by the arm and dragging it down. Scarab God losing all abilities and just flailing around. So it's really cool art, and this is on a great card that's going to be impactful in many standard decks, I would say, and possibly even modern Merfolk. For that matter, I imagine this slots directly into Modern Merfolk as a 4-of. And finally, we get to see the art for the Flame of Keld and Urza's Ruinous Blast. The Flame of Keld, I'm not 100% sure I do or do not like the design on these sagas. I kind of like the direction that it went, but it does make the artwork look a little bit like squinched up. You know, I'm just not sure. And there's really not much to analyze in this art, but the sagas are a really cool idea, and I like the way they executed them. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I want to like it, but I also don't quite. Let me just say that. As far as Urza's Ruinous Blast, it looks like he's going Super Saiyan. Like, this is very anime art, you know. So I like a lot about it, and I like the card itself too. I like both of these cards. Urza's Ruinous Blast is another good card for that green, white, and X legendary. Give it a shot, but I'm a little worried this won't completely clear the board, and that's what you want to do. So I'm not sure, but the Flame of Keld looks pretty tasty too. My problem with this is that it's going to have to warrant 4 slots in a deck, or, you know, 3 slots perhaps. And I'm just not sure that you can rework a deck to actually make this an important enough card, but there's an awful lot going for it. In my review of the card, of the Dominaria leaks, one thing I didn't mention about this is that it sources red sources, period, not just like spells that you control. So creatures that are attacking and stuff like that, you know, planeswalkers maybe. So that's great. You know, drawing 2 cards is fantastic the second turn that it's in play. And I imagine very often you're going to engineer a situation where you don't mind discarding your hand, or this is the last card in your hand. Maybe you're just discarding a land, or maybe even something that you can discard for card advantage, like a creature with Eternalize. So there's a lot of engineered situations you can engineer where this card is ridiculous. So I wouldn't doubt that Flame of Keld will see play, but it's got to work really hard, and it's got to earn its slots to actually be in a deck. So we'll see what we can do with Flame of Keld, but I'm a little dubious, even though the card is pretty obviously powerful. But now we're on the new stuff. I'm going to start from the bottom with some stuff that I don't think is as impactful, but we'll work our way up. So we'll start here with Academy Drake. This is 3 mana, 2 and a blue for 2/2 Drake with kicker 4. Obviously it flies. It's a Drake. If Academy Drake was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it. So you get a Wind Drake that for essentially 7 mana, you can make a 4/4 flyer. Well, this is actually going to be really, really good in Limited and nowhere else. Obviously, this doesn't see constructed play, but this is much better than it might have at first appear to some players. In Limited, you know, if you're going to the pre-release, you open this in sealed. This won't necessarily put you in blue, but if you are in blue, this is a great creature. Actually, it's a Wind Drake that has really good late game value. 4/4 flyers tend to end a lot of games of Limited, so this is actually fantastic. But moving along, the next thing I want to talk about is Guardians of Koilos. Coila's getting a shout out. That's nice to see. It's 5 mana for a 4/4 artifact creature. It's a construct. And when it enters the battlefield, you may return another target historic permanent you control to its owner's hand. I don't think this is super impactful just because 5 mana is so much. 5 mana is way too much, but again, maybe there's some cool limited shenanigans you could do with this. And finally, before I get back on camera, here's Sarah Disciple for you. It's 2 mana, 1 and a white for a 1/1 bird cleric with flying and first strike. And whenever you cast a historic spell, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I'd really like if that was a +1/+1 counter. I think that would be fantastic. But as it stands, this is pretty decent again in limited, where it's a creature with evasion that has the ability to get bigger. It has first strike and flying. That's just, all of that is pretty decent. For just a 2 mana package, it's at least a very playable creature that handles auras very well. You know, if you get a couple of playable auras that boost power or toughness, I can see this seeing some play. And if we can find a way to, or if there's a way I'm just not thinking of right now, to bounce an artifact over and over for free that exists either in Pauper or Standard, then this can obviously get infinite power. So look out for that. Be on the lookout for that. We already have a couple of zero-cost artifacts in the format. Mox Amber comes to mind. So if we can, profitably bounce it over and over for free, then that could be GG if you have this guy out. Fun 3-card combo. So, I hope that exists at some point down the line. And it's possible it already exists in Pauper. So I wouldn't put this card past seeing some play because that is a potentially really powerful ability. But I'm not seeing anything at present. But on to some stuff I think is really dope. Here's Saproling Migration right here. It's 2 mana, 1 and a green for a sorcery with kicker 4. Create 2 1/1 green Saproling creature tokens. If the spell was kicked, create 4 of those tokens instead. Alright, so first things first, this too is a common. So this could have some Pauper relevance right there. And we get another Servo Exhibition type card in Standard. A Servo Exhibition that's got really sweet late game value. I love cards like this that are essentially a board in a box. Even if it didn't have kicker, it's kind of sweet to have a green Servo Exhibition or, whatever the million cards have existed like this in white. It's sweet to have a green card that does the same. So really a huge fan of this. I think that it looks innocuous at first glance, but it'll almost certainly have some form of relevance in Standard or almost certainly in Pauper. This looks hot for that format. But up next, there's 2 pieces of black removal that all the kids are talking about today, so I'm stoked to get to these. They're pretty exciting. First up, here's Vicious Offering. VO is 2 mana, it's 1 and a black for an instant. With kicker, sacrifice a creature. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. If the spell was kicked, that creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn instead. Well, this has the ability to kill a Hazoret, which might, just in and of itself, that one little thing about it, that one piece of tech, might make the card Standard playable. And it's playable outside of just killing Hazoret. I mean, this kills early game stuff. It might be better than Moment of Craving in blue-black decks, specifically because it kills a Hazoret. Yeah, Moment of Craving gains you a couple of life, keeps you in the game, that's always sweet, but it can't kill a Hazoret. This can, given that you have another creature lying around, which blue-black control won't always have another creature lying around, but there are niche cases where maybe you pull something out of their graveyard with Scarab God and then sacrifice it to kill their Hazoret. That seems like a decent sort of corner play right there, but again, just because it kills Hazoret, that's not the only good thing about it. It also kills everything in the early game while still allowing you to hold up mana. This could have just as easily been sorcery speed, but it's not. So there's going to be times where you can block with a creature that's going to die anyway, and then sacrifice that creature as part of this spell's kicker cost. All of that is super dope, so this card is really, really, really good. Even though sacrificing a creature isn't necessarily what you want to do, it sort of puts you at a virtual card disadvantage. You lost a card from your hand, you lost a creature from the board, they only lost one guy. But there's going to be times where that's more than worth it, especially if the creature's on its way out regardless. And it can kill Hazoret. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it can kill Hazoret. So yeah, this might be the weapon of choice against mono-red aggro decks from here on out. We've seen a couple of really good pieces against that deck, and Hazoret specifically. We saw Seal Away, great new, 2 mana white piece of flash removal. Now we see this, and we actually got another one. There's actually another one. Here's Cast Down right here. This is 2 mana, 1 and a black for an instant, destroy target non-legendary creature. Now, this is the real card that's being, like, hotly debated amongst all Magic players. There's a huge Reddit post on Spikes already about this card. Is it good enough for Modern? Is it good enough for Standard? Does it replace Terminate in certain decks? Is it better than Go for the Throat in Modern? There's been a lot of discussion about this card. As far as Standard goes, I'm not sure. And I think that it may occupy sort of the same design space or deck design space that Ultimate Price occupies whenever it's in a format. You don't play 4 Ultimate Price. You play 1 or 2 Ultimate Price, depending on what you're trying to kill, but you very rarely play 4. That's how I feel about Cast Down. I think that we'll play like 1 or 2 Cast Down, and then maybe another copy or 2 in the sideboard. I think it's just a little bit too high risk to have a card that's going to be dead against really the stuff you want to kill the most. But that said, the card is obviously insanely good, so I'm not ripping on it or anything. Just being realistic. Up next is Zhalfirin Void. Love the flavor of this. I guess that Zhalfir is like phased out right now. Maybe, who knows when it comes back or if it will. But anyway, enough talk about that. It's a land. When it enters the battlefield, you scry 1 and you can tap it for a colorless mana. So it's basically a colorless temple that doesn't come into play tapped. You've sold me. I think that's probably pretty good. It's probably great, especially in EDH and in decks that really don't care if they're only producing a lot of colorless mana. But in Standard at large, we've got like Field of Ruin. We've got, there's a bunch of them. Scavenger Grounds, Arch of Araska. These are all really good colorless lands, so I'm just not sure how many slots you're going to have for Void at the end of the day. But this does look like a very good card. We all underestimated the temples when they first came out. I saw a lot of people complaining about the temples when Theros came out, but those were some of the better tap lands that have ever existed. So who knows? This doesn't come into play tapped and does give us a scry. So it might be insanely good and I'm undervaluing it, but really I'm just trying to judge it against the other colorless lands, and I don't think it's as good as any of them. But we're rounding the corner now. We've only got a couple more spoilers to talk about. First of all, Opt is back again. With like way cooler art. I really like this art. I mean, they could reprint Opt in the next set. They could reprint it in core set, and I wouldn't be mad about that. Give it as many reprintings as you want to. I'll never be upset to see Opt, especially with art like this. So, yay! Opt is even easier to get now. It's a great card. It should be accessible. But the last card we're going to look at today is one that I saved for last on purpose. I love this thing. Here is Zahid, Djinn of the Lamp. It's 6 mana, 4 and 2 blue for a 5/6 flying legendary Djinn. And you can pay 3 and a blue and tap an untapped artifact you control rather than pay this spell's mana cost. You never had a friend like Zahid. This thing looks really good to me. I've seen a lot of people writing this thing off already, but we've essentially got Mahamoti Djinn back at a huge discount. And I have seen so many comments, people saying like, oh, there's not really many good artifacts in Standard. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? There's already a bunch of, 1 mana decent artifacts. Renegade Map comes to mind. There's another one in this set. Here it is on your screen. I forgot its name, but it's this thing. That's decent. There's even Traveler's Amulet if you want to go that far. Hope of Girapur counts. Heart of Kirin counts. There's a bunch of decent playable early artifacts, not to mention all the treasures that we have in the format. And another cool niche interaction. Yes, I like this card this much that I'm this amped about it. Another cool niche interaction that's going to matter, maybe, is that you can tap a Mox Amber for this, even if you don't actually control any legends. It's a use for Mox Amber when Mox Amber can't actually tap for mana. And then, on subsequent turns, once you have your Zahid out, your Mox can now tap for blue. I think that's actually really important, that the Mox can essentially be your lamp, which is great flavor. If you didn't catch the dope flavor on this, tapping an artifact is essentially just rubbing a lamp. That is how you do a Genie with flavor. And honestly, 4 mana is not too much to ask for a 5/6 flyer. Those stats are raw, y'all. Like, that's a huge dude. As early as turn 3, I'm not going to be that guy that judges every card based on the fact that Lana Worlds is in the format. But Lana Worlds is in the format, and that's relevant. We can get this on turn 3, easy peasy. But even if you do play it turn 4, it's at least at parity with all the other removal that can actually kill it. Cast Out, Vraska's Contempt, Ixalan's Binding, yeah, they all kill this, but they at least cost as much as it does. Your opponent is almost never going to get a good deal on removing this, No red removal can even touch it for what it's worth, unless they really overcharge a Harness Lightning, they're not going to kill it. with an Abrade or a Lightning Strike, Shock and Magma Spray are nowhere close. Not even Hour of Devastation comes anywhere close to touching this. Fatal Push, even Revolted will never kill this. Things like Moment of Craving that are popular, and even maybe Vicious Offering, if it gets popular, can't kill this. Cast Down, that other black removal piece that we looked at, can't kill this because it's legendary. This survives an awful lot, is what I'm getting at, and you can get it super early in the game. And one more thing that I'll say about this card is it outclasses just about every other flyer in the entire format. Rekindling Phoenix, way bigger. Heart of Kirin, way bigger. Glorybringer, way bigger. And Aethersphere Harvester, this can even kill. Even Lyra Dawnbringer, the new Baneslayer thing, this just bowls right over it and doesn't die. So I think this might actually be priced for standard and statted for standard for what it's worth. I like this card a lot. But I'm pretty sure I'm tapped out on previews for now, but they're going to be coming really, really soon now. I mean, probably at a trickle for the next week or so, but as we get into April, they're going to start coming really fast. And we still haven't seen like 120 or so cards from this set, so there's a lot to see. And a day like today just goes to show you that even though we got a big leak, there's still a bunch of cards we haven't seen that could be really impactful. So just stay tuned with the channel, sub if you haven't done it yet, hit the bell for the notifications because there's going to be a bunch of preview videos in the coming days. And remember, this video is brought to you with the help of the good folks up there at TCG Player in New York. They're good people, and they help bring the content to you. And they're where you can pre-order pretty much all of these Dominaria singles. Already, I know it's pretty early, but if you're interested in just looking at the prices on some of these Dominaria cards, and not necessarily even ordering yet, but you're just interested in sort of a price guide on these cards, TCG Player is a really good place to go, so I'll leave a link in the description for them if you want to sort of peruse their wares and get a general feel of what the prices for the cards in the set are. You should also like the video. Do it. Even if you didn't like the video, just be like, he's a good guy, he deserves a like. So hit thumbs up. Super low effort way to help me out. You can follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev if you're interested in that, or if you really want to, you can throw me $1 a month on Patreon. That's all I ask. Over there at patreon.com/SBMTG. Leave a link in the description if you're interested in that business. But pretty sure I'm done for this one. I'll catch you cats later. I'm Dev from The Place. Thanks for watching, my wizards. Remember to spread love and be kind.